Yeah, that article is just confirming everything we've been screaming for 9 months. Yeah, true. True. Okay, let's go over this. And it's good to go over just because also, you never know who might come across it later, but it is important to talk about this because they've been lying about this for months, screeching about it for months. IOF ordered Hannibal Directive on October 7th to prevent Hamas from taking soldiers captive. There was a crazy hysteria and decisions started being made without verified information. Documents and testimonies obtained by Haaretz reveal the Hannibal Operational Order, which directs the use of force to prevent soldiers from being taken into captivity, was employed at 3 army facilities infiltrated by Hamas, potentially endangering civilians as well. Potentially. The Gaza Division operations air strikes in the first hours of October 7th were based on limited information. The first long moments after the Hamas attack was launched were chaotic. Reports were coming in with their significance not always clear. When their meaning was understood, it was realized that something horrific had taken place. Communication networks could not keep up with the flow of information, as was the case for soldiers sending these reports. However, a message conveyed at 11:22 a.m. across the Gaza Division network was understood by everyone. Not a single vehicle can return to Gaza was the order. So not a single vehicle can return to Gaza was the order, knowing that they had taken hostages. That's not sus at all. Also, why 11:22 in the morning? Didn't the attack start at like 6 a.m.? That's sus. Communicate. Oh, I already read that. At this point, the IOF was not aware of the extent of the kidnapping along the Gaza border, but it did know that many people were involved. Thus, it was entirely clear that the message meant and what the fate of some of the kidnapped people might be or would be. So what they're saying is at that point, the IOF knew that there were hostages and what it meant to say nobody can go over that border, including Israelis. Sources, scores. Greetings, everyone. Thank you. Hey, sources. Thank you so much for the super chat. I really appreciate you. I appreciate everybody who donates and becomes a member and sends super chat. I love you guys. It is always seen. It is always appreciated. This was not the first order given by the division with the intent of foiling kidnapping, even at the expense. Okay, let that one sink in, guys. This was not the first order given by the division with the intent of foiling the kidnapping, even at the expense of the lives of the kidnapped, a procedure known in the Army as the Hannibal Directive. Documents obtained by Haaretz, as well as testimonies of soldiers, mid-level and senior IOF soldier officers, reveal a host of orders and procedures laid down by the Gaza Division, Southern Command, and the IOF General Staff up to the afternoon hours of that day, showing how widespread this procedure was from the first hours following the attack and at various points along the border. Haaretz does not know whether or how many civilians and soldiers were hit due to these procedures, but the cumulative data indicates that many of the kidnapped people were at risk, exposed to Israeli gunfire, even if they were not the target. Yeah, like, because we all remember, right, seeing the cars, all the cars that were hit. Everyone remembers that, right? Because they didn't have Apache helicopters. So how did that happen to all those cars? Including people who were trying to flee while driving. At 6:43 a.m., at a time Rocket barrages were launched at Israel through thousands of Hamas operatives were attacking army strongholds. The division's observation and communications capabilities, the division's commander, Brigadier General Avi Rosenfeld, declared that the Philistines have invaded. So let me get this straight, Santa. You knew that they had come in at 6:43 a.m. And at 11 a.m., they still had not stopped it. Sus. Something is not adding up there. Something is not adding up there. You knew about this from 6:43 a.m. and here it is 11 and you still haven't ended it. They love to brag about all their technology. They love to brag about that. They've got so much technology. They've got the most advanced technology in the world. Sources scores. This is the procedure when the enemy invades Israeli territory, upon which the division commander can assume extraordinary authority, including the deployment of heavy fire inside Israeli territory in order to block an enemy raid. So what they're saying is they could go after even their own citizens if it meant getting rid of the enemy, which is exactly what they did at all the kibbutzim. They did that. All those kibbutzes that had all those people targeted that were living there were hit by Apache helicopter gunfire. And you know that they received those orders that it was fine to do so, so long as they were able to get rid of the Hamas people. Very senior IOF source confirmed to Haaretz that the Hannibal procedure was employed on October 7th, adding that this was not used by the divisional commander who did give the order. This, said the source, will perhaps be established by post-war investigations. So he's confirming that it happened. In any case, says defense official who is familiar with the October 7th operations at the Gaza division, in the morning hours, no one knew what was going on outside. He says that Rosenfeld was in the war room, not emerging while an outside war was raging. That's sus. Everyone was shocked by the number of terrorists who had penetrated the base. Even in our nightmares, we didn't have plans for such an attack. What do you mean? What do you mean you didn't have plans for such an attack? I thought you had the most advanced army in the world. I thought you had the most advanced technology in the world. What do you mean you weren't prepared? By a bunch of guys randomly storming through with nothing but the arms that they had on them? And you weren't prepared for that. Nah, man, something doesn't make sense. Something doesn't add up. I don't know what that is, but something does not add up. They had a clue about the number of people kidnapped or where army forces were. Yeah, bro, the reason why they were able to kidnap so many people is because they didn't have any opposition. There was crazy hysteria with decisions being made without any verified information, he continued. One of these decisions was made at 7:18 a.m. when an observation post at the Yifta outpost reported that someone had been kidnapped at the Erez border crossing adjacent to the IOF's liaison office. Hannibal at Erez came the command from a divisional headquarters. Dispatch a Zeke. The Zeke is an unmanned assault drone. And the meaning of this command was clear. So they were saying that at 7:18, they were already commanding the Hannibal Directive, knowing that they had an Israeli, knowing that. This wasn't the last time such an order was heard over the communications network. Over the next half hour, the division realized that Hamas terrorists had managed to kill and abduct had managed to kill or abduct soldiers serving at the crossing and at the adjacent base. Then at 7:41, it happened again. Hannibal at Haaretz, an assault on the crossing of the base, just so no more soldiers could be taken. Such commands were given later as well. Okay, so again, this is literally them reporting that they knew that they were capturing people, and they knew that they had Israelis, and they just said go and do it anyway. Multiple times too, because they didn't want soldiers to be taken. The Haaretz border crossing was not the only place that this happened. Information obtained by Haaretz and confirmed by the army shows that throughout the morning, the Hannibal procedure was employed at two other locations penetrated by terrorists: the Reim Army Base, where the divisional headquarters was located, and the Nahal Oz outpost in which female spotters were based. This did not prevent the kidnapping of 7 of them or the killing of 15 others, as well as 38 other soldiers. Over the next few hours, the division headquarters started pulling the pieces of the puzzle together, realizing the extent of the Hamas attack, but missing the invasion of kibbutz near Oz, which the First Army forces reached only after the terrorists had left. Regarding the frequency of employing the Hannibal procedure, it seems that nothing changed. Thus, for example, at 10:19 a.m., a report had reached the divisional headquarters indicating that Zeke had attacked the Reim base. 3 minutes later, another such report arrived. At that time, the Shaldeg commando forces were already on the base fighting the terrorists. To this day, it is not clear whether one of them was hurt in the drone attack. What is known is that over the communications network, there was a message asking everyone to make sure no soldier was outdoors on the base, since the IOF forces were about to enter and drive out or kill remaining terrorists. The decision to conduct the attacks inside outposts, says a senior defense official, will haunt senior commanders all their lives. Anyone making such a decision knew that our combatants in the area could be hit as well. So they're saying they knew it. They're saying they knew it. That's why they're saying it haunted them, because they knew that they were going to kill their own civilians. But such an attack took place, it turns out, not only inside outposts or bases. At 10:32 a.m., a new order was issued. According to all battalions in the area were ordered to fire mortars in the direction of the Gaza Strip. Internal discussions in the army noted that this was the order attributed to General Rosenfeld, was heavily criticized since at the time the IOF did not have a complete picture of all the forces in the area, including soldiers and civilians. Some of these were in open areas or in woods along the border trying to hide from terrorists. So they knew that there were people hiding and did it anyway. At that point, the army did not know the number of people who had been kidnapped. We thought that the number dozens at the stage, the military source told Haaretz. Firing mortars at the Gaza Strip would endanger them as well. But furthermore, another order was given at 11:22, according to which no vehicle would be allowed to return to Gaza. This took this step further. Everyone knew by then that such vehicles could be carrying kidnapped civilians or soldiers. A source in Southern Command told Haaretz there was no case in which the vehicles carrying the kidnapped people was knowingly attacked, but you couldn't really know if there were any such people in a vehicle. I can't say that there was a clear instruction, but everyone knew what it meant to not let any vehicles return to Gaza. I mean, so it wasn't 1, it wasn't 2, it wasn't 3, it wasn't 4. It was literally attack after attack after attack. It was literally order after order after order after order telling them to employ the Hannibal Directive. It's just crazy. A new development occurred at 2 p.m. All the forces were instructed not to exit the border communities toward the west in the direction of the border, with the emphasis on not chasing terrorists. At that point, the border area was under intense fire directed at anyone in the area, making it a danger zone. The instruction, says the source in southern Gaza, was meant to turn the area around the border fence into a killing zone, closing it off toward the west. At 6:40 p.m., the military intelligence believed that many terrorists were intending to flee together back to the Gaza Strip in an organized manner. This was near Kibbutz Be'eri, Kfar Aza, and the Kisufim. Following this, the army launched artillery raids at the border fence area very close to some of those communities. Shortly afterwards, shells were fired at the Erez border crossing. The IOF says it is not aware of any civilians being hurt in those bombardments. Well, they don't need to say that because we all saw the photos. We all saw the photos of all the kibbutzes that had been shelled. Like, I like how they're trying to play dumb there. Like, I don't know. We don't know. We saw the shelling, bro. One case in which it is known that civilians were hit, a case that received wide coverage, took place in the house of Pressy Cohen at Kibbutz Be'eri. 14 hostages were held in the house as the IOF attacked it, with 13 of them killed. In the coming weeks, the IOF is expected to publish the results of its investigation of the incident, which will answer the question of whether or not Brigadier General Barak Harim, the commander of the Division 99, who was in charge of operations in Be'eri on October 7th, was employing the Hannibal Directive procedure. Did he order a tank to move ahead, even at the cost of civilian casualties, as he stated in an interview he gave later to the New York Times? First of all, I doubt that he's going to admit wrongdoing. If anything, he'll probably blame it on like rank and file soldiers, because he's not going to want to take responsibility for that. But what's amazing is that the media still lies about what happened at that kibbutz. Like this article says right here, and this article is coming from Israeli media, they already admitted 13 civilians were killed by their artillery fire at that Be'eri. But they still don't admit it. The Zionists and all the propaganda still go over all the media and claim that it was Hamas that did that when it clearly was them, and that's already been reported. It's amazing. Overall, the 3 months that have passed, the IOF has refused to say whether this procedure was employed against civilians who had been taken hostage. It now seems that even if the answer is positive, the question may have been only a partial one. The actions of Haram may have simply been congruent with the way the IOF operated that day. Okay, yeah, that's clearly artillery fire. As far as Haaretz knows, even at 9:33 p.m., this was still the situation on the ground. At that time, there was a further order from Southern Command, close off all border areas with tanks. In fact, all forces in the area received permission to open fire at anyone approaching the border area without any restrictions. The IOF spokesperson responded by saying the army has been fighting for 6 months at high intensity on several fronts, focusing on attaining the war's objectives. What objective? In tandem, the IOF has begun conducting internal investigations of what transpired on October 7th and the preceding period. The aim of these investigations is to learn to draw lessons which could be used to continuing the battle. When these investigations are concluded, the results will be presented in the public with transparency. Will it, though? Will it? Because none of you are transparent. So what should we really expect? If anything, they're just trying to stave off the investigation. First of all, why would anybody trust the IOF to investigate itself? Why is anybody trusting them to investigate themselves? There should be outside investigations. Second of all, for him to be like, we're trying to get the purpose, the objective. What's the objective? It's clearly not to get the hostages, because you guys literally went after your own people. You don't care about them. That much is clear. That much is clear. We all knew this was the case. It's just a matter of it coming out. It's just a matter of it coming out. But we all have known this was the case from the jump. Yeah, for real. The lesson they drew was to operate in a free fire zone without regard to civilian casualties. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And they allowed this to go on for hours. Hours. Absalom Jones. Every other post is censored. Thank you, Absalom Jones. I appreciate you. I appreciate the super chat. We all got to keep fighting the good fight. I just think it's amazing. You knew that it was going to come out sooner or later, but I think it's amazing that this was actually reported in Israeli media. And I want to see an independent investigation. But they still, I mean, that's the importance of debunking this kind of stuff, because even in this article talking about how the kibbutz Berim thing was debunked months ago, they still repeat it. They still repeat it. It's quite something. And if you'll notice, that's why they don't allow for any of the hostages that have returned to really be interviewed. They don't really want to hear from them, which is kind of sus, because you'd think they'd want to. Well, no one should trust the IOF numbers. I don't trust anything they say. They're like fake internal investigations. No, I only trust things that have been verified by like third parties. And it has been verified in this article and in articles before it that they employed the Hannibal Directive. Not just the Erez crossing. They did it multiple times throughout the day. Multiple times throughout the day. And the other question that has not been answered is, why did they allow it to go on for so long? I thought you guys had such an advanced military. What up? That's just crazy. And they keep using the same propaganda over and over and over again, even on things that have already been debunked. Yeah, never believe anything they say. Never believe anything that they say. The truth will continue to come out. It will. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's another sus question that hasn't been answered, is why was the festival over there to begin with? A lot of unanswered questions. It's just crazy. Well, anyway, thanks for hanging out with me today, guys. I got to run because got to do a lot of things today for the rest of the day. But thank you for hanging out with me. I'll be doing another live on Thursday at the same time at 5. Another live on this Thursday at 5. So join me for that. And I want to say thank you again to everybody who sent me super chats during this live. Thank you so much. I appreciate you guys always. I appreciate you supporting my work so I can keep doing this. I love you all. And I will see you on Friday. And to everyone, keep fighting the good fight. I love you and free Palestine. Love you all. See you Thursday at 5. And subscribe if you haven't already subscribed and ring the bell. Bye, guys.